Hey guys, this is the Ecron Writer here, welcoming you to another OBS project. And this one happens to be a crossover with Sleepy Hollow and Supernatural. And I kind of promised last year that I would do it, but I wasn't able to because I had other projects to do and I had a limited time. So I just didn't want to do it at the moment. And I apologize for the extremely long hiatus because I'm running out of things to do, actually. And I haven't gotten a lot of free time on my hands. So here we see Jenny, Gavin, and Molly hanging out in Jenny's trailer. And they're just hanging out. Takes place in the episode with Fireburn, the epidemic that the Horsemen of Famine unleashed. Well, actually, it's the Jinn, and the Horsemen of Famine took advantage. Horsemen of Pestilence actually took advantage of it. The fire flu, the sick burn. That's what it was, the sick burn. Anyway, this happens to be a Valentine's Day special, so I hope you enjoy. Alright, Visions of Valentines. And I came up with this idea on a whim from like a couple years ago. So here it is. Ever since I found out it was Valentine's Day back in like 2019, I believe, something kept nagging at my mind, yet I never had inspiration for it. I'll let the fic explain itself, but remember the supernatural episode, My Bloody Valentine? Ugh. I have like a love-hate relationship with that episode. Mostly hate because I hate supernatural. So here goes. Gavin and Sam were just riding inside Jenny's camper as it headed to Washington, D.C. The newbie hunter of Agency 355 was just discussing an incident on Valentine's Day, although the scenario was not what it seemed. So, let me get this straight. There were some murders around a small town, and at first you and your brother thought it was Cupid. You saw some angelic markings on the victims' hearts, and you guys figured it was an act of unity corrupted. Now you are telling me this all happened from the Horsemen of Famine? He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Sam just gave a nod of assent. Yes, it was. I was also influenced by his curse. I first saw a demon whisper my surname twice. Then he fled after I used a knife on him. He had a briefcase that contained a strong evil spirit, which actually released the horseman's essence. Both witnesses appeared puzzled. Jenny queried, "How did you know it was famine, Sam?" She turned on to I-95 while he explained it all, from Castiel's description, to his fetish for demon blood, to the infection spread across the townsfolk, including at an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Love was in the air, though it was more of a perverted love, whether it be sex, violence, drugs, alcohol, etc. But he didn't arrive on a black steed, though. Instead, it was a black Cadillac Escalade, and he absorbed souls in large quantities after they perished. But he wasn't quite full yet. He was after you. Exactly. Why? Gavin was still confounded. He wanted to take my soul. He also wanted me to be consumed with demon blood. That made Gavin cringe. Ugh! Why demon blood? Sam then stated that he had a certain addiction to it ever since he wanted his revenge on Lilith, not the heartless demon the pair was familiar with. He then had an attraction towards a succubus named Ruby who taught him how he'd defeat the spoiled brat and save the world using his newfound telekinetic abilities after drinking blood from demons. Dean, of course, was very erratic once he discovered this, leading them to endless conflicts, including one involving a male siren, as well as the anonymous person's resentment toward him. Upon Ruby and Lilith's deaths, Lucifer and the Four Horsemen were released onto the earth. Gavin and Jenny began to have mixed feelings of Sam's actions. but they wondered how the horsemen and Lucifer were set loose without Moloch. It was back in 2010, after all, about 3 years before Ichabod and Abraham were resurrected. Maybe Moloch was taking a vacation, and then Lucifer took over. Jenny was more serious. Well, Gavin and I never noticed anything apocalyptic since he was at home, and I was still cooped up in Terrytown, and the horsemen inhabit different vessels. Yeah, yeah, and Castiel and I were infected by Famine's curse when he inherited Lester Finch's body, the one that was killed during a Twinkie binge. So, wait, is that? So if the horsemen acquired different individuals, maybe the horsemen were on Earth before Moloch returned, before our war resumed from the Revolution. Abraham Van Brunt and Crane hadn't been awakened yet, so maybe these four guys took control of the world, with a different incarnate of Lucifer as well. So basically, they were pre-incarnates. Precisely, Gavin. He then went on that all the evil was reversed after he opened the pit utilizing the horseman's rings, and dove in with the fake brother, who turned out to be Satan taking him down, after he had to suffer from the lethal hallucinations when the dam in his brain broke. The rest was history. I wish Dean and I were with you during your fight, although we doubted it was possible since they were always on the road, traveling across the nation hunting various paranormal threats. He started to feel anxious if he could rescue him from Hell's anger ring, but the team would strictly disallow it, as releasing a damned soul would possibly wreak havoc regardless on who it is. While they continued their 5-hour drive with Jenny's iPod playing, Sam then discussed his dream on becoming a lawyer that was suddenly interrupted by his endless family mission. It was his brother alone that pushed him along. Keep that in mind, I made this before the finale of Supernatural. What if you finish it online? You can still continue your tuition and complete your college courses. Plenty of students do this, especially around here, Diana suggested. The quartet arrived at the vault along with Mary Winchester and the rest of the group, excepting Molly, since she was still in middle school. We could use someone like you on the team, and you may enlist yourself here once you're all caught up. Everyone agreed, but Alex asked if Sam could remember where he left off. He said it was so long, back in 2005, that he couldn't be certain. Then just start over. Unless if you want to be homebound and teach yourself, Laura intervened. While she was raised by Malcolm, she was often homeschooled, especially after the fact she'd been bullied so much, despite Job's fatal involvement. I was later in a prestigious school system once I reached high school and took many college courses. So, since you're here in DC, the options are endless. Indeed. And if duty ever calls, we'll take your place until you are ready, so no incident shall interrupt your studies. Hey, Crane could be... Oh, wait. Hey, Crane could be of good help if you need assistance in history, the archivist beamed. What do you say, son? Mary asked in amazement. She never thought she and her baby would join a group that specializes in the supernatural and provide endless support while still being in home base. Sam looked at their expressions, then he felt encouraged. Okay, I'll do it! We'll make a devil's advocate out of you yet. Jenny made a firm press on his shoulder. Almost everyone giggled at the jest, but Sam was still determined to not only achieve his lost dreams, but also someday reunite with his brother, awaiting in the underworld. Famine should ever return. I wouldn't want to give in to demon blood again. We got your back, bro. They all gathered around the large table and everyone were exchanging snacks and gifts, especially Gavin, who made a heart-shaped rice cake covered in pink food coloring. It seemed he was improving on baking since he received a beginner's cookbook from Molly last Christmas. Everybody discussed their past adventures, and despite their ongoing concern over Sam's motives, they did enjoy some quality time with each other. Even when Ichabod dated with Laura, Gavin went with Jenny, Jake on with Alex, while Diana spent with Molly, as Sam hung around with his mom. The nation's capital was the perfect place to be since the world was finally at peace, despite his ongoing wavering mind. Let's be real here. I'm not a huge fan of Supernatural anymore. Good riddance since it ended. Took them long enough. Even though it was sort of anticlimactic because you could just skip to it at any time. I feel that Warner Brothers Kripke, or whatever, and those greedy network executives have gone way too far in the series, refusing it to let it ever end. And it's not a first since they can't let go of Scooby-Doo, which ironically got its own crossover, nor Teen Titans Go! I mean, thank goodness they ended it last November. I wish the series could just die already and have a more proper finale despite the fact it was supposed to end during season 5. And ironically, when Sam took down Lucifer in his human vessel, it was supposed to be the end, but it wasn't. No matter, since it's kind of anticlimactic since Sam was in hell all this time. But it was supposed to end there, but due to fan demand, it didn't until, like I said, like last November. Good riddance. Anyway, I quit around season 7 for good, and I still think the anime did a far better job. I would watch that any day, and I wish it would continue since the live action version ended. I believe that Sam and Mary deserve better once they're parts of Agency 355, although there's his obsession on saving Dean from hell. Because it was Valentine's, this fic was easy to do. Hope you all have a good one. Ecron Writer out. And may I say the same? So, I apologize for the long hiatus, but I told you guys in advance that I don't have much to do. I just have like holiday fics, so I'll go with those. At least hopefully, if I should happen to learn how to make AMVs, countdowns, things like that. So, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Ecron Writer out.